black folk. Perusing all this material and some of what's going on in the economic realm, capital flows or whatnot, and seeing everything from the New America Foundation to Liberty University to Bob Jones University to the Rush Limbaugh supporters to you're gonna pretty soon be faced with a dilemma. You're gonna have to ask yourself a question. I told folks you were warned, and these warnings are now coming true. You're gonna have to ask yourself a question. All those supporters of the cracker that killed Oscar Grant Meserly, you're gonna have to ask yourself: is it not justice to find out where they live and enact your brand of justice? Because if they support him, is it no different than all the folks that lined up and saw Jesse Washington get lynched and burned? There were a lot of supporters there. How about the five brothers in Minnesota that were the clown troupe that got killed and murdered and lynched by a bunch of crackers because some crackers lied? There were a lot of supporters there who watched the lynching. How about Rosewood? How about Black Wall Street? There were a lot of supporters of the crackers that went ahead and killed the entire community and changed the face of blacks for 175 years. These supporters of Meserly, I know a lot of folks want to get out, and this is what crackers, and they expect you to do this. Go out and riot. A couple of days later, a couple of weeks later, everything's, back to square zero. Because, we have a goldfish mentality. We'll remember 2 minutes, and then that's about it. Because we're very emotional. We'll spout off at the drop of a hat, or quote unquote, like some Negroes say, banging at beast or whatever. And then something else happens. John Henrick Clarke, you better listen like your life depends on it. And there's a lot of the Africans. I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Negro, the so-called pseudo-nationalist that's likes to debate and put people in blast and banging on beast and stuff. Put that cracker in blast, banging that cracker. You know, I heard one Negro talking about how he's gonna upset the so-called conscious nationalist community. I mean, just what that is pure faggotry. It's like fight your own because you can't go against that cracker. You're just too scared to go against him. And I know some of the Negro out there be sitting there, well, what you doing? What you doing? See, that's the mentality of the Negro. Debate me. That's because I'm telling you the truth of your inadequacy. So, here's a little solution. You got to ask yourself these questions. If you live in that area and you see the supporters of this faggot, queer devil Meserly who shot Oscar Grant, including its family. I won't call it his because he ain't human. When you see these supporters, ask yourself, instead of banging on your brother here and so-called, we gonna bang on the beast, ask yourself this. Find out where they live, where they work. You may have to ask yourself, should I find out all their details, their children, their family? Because Oscar Grant is just one of many. It could have been an entire community being lynched. And these same devils will support that cop and say, well, he should have the right to kill you. Okay, bang on the beast or whatever, and debate me because that's, like I said, that's the inadequacy of the Negro. But I'm telling you a solution if you can get it through your head. If you're in that area, find out where they live. Find out where they like to go play soccer. Find out where they go to the Walmarts. Find out everything you can about these devils, including Meserly, including the prosecutor, including the judge, including the clerk reporter. I don't care who it is. Find out all of it. If you can't destroy them financially, John Henrick Clarke said, and you might have to ask yourself this question. This is just a question. Will you have to take John Henrick Clarke's message to a real action? His message was, one day when they wake up and they find one of them has a bullet in their head, nobody knows who did it, nobody knows why, nobody knows how. It just happened. You might be forced to find that a reality. You're going to have to ask yourself this. It may be a reality. These are just questions you're going to have to ask yourself. Ayanna Jones's killer is out there making money, probably writing a book by now. Got a raise. Out there to kill more 7-year-olds. Many of you in that community that like to bang and beast, it went unanswered. Sure, you made a grandstand for 2 weeks, and then you went back to your pyramids, and you went back to your so-called. Go ahead and debate me because, like I said, that's your inadequacy. You go out and talk, 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 talk. But if you really believe in John Henrick Clarke, you got to ask yourself this: is it just so you can go ahead and promote your own ego, or is it that you really believe in what our scholars said? This Joseph Weekly devil, the one that killed Ayanna Jones, if you were to follow John Henrik Clarke, what he said, one day they would have woken up and found that this guy's head was cut off. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew when or where. It just happened. If you believe in what our esteemed scholars, and you're not using it for some kind of talking point, so you could look nationalist, so you could look like, oh yeah, I'm Kemet, I go to pyramids and banging, and I'm an Israelite, and F the police, and the police, whatever. You got to ask yourself that question. That's just a question. If you are so-called Nation of Islam, because a lot of them, the Nation of Islam, the same ones that aren't, going against the Arabs, they're selling pork and liquor in black communities, but yet they sit there and they'll be the first ones to pray next to the same Arab that does it. You have to ask yourself, the same Negroes that are anti-mosque, no mosque, no mosque, sound like Roberto Duran. You got to ask yourself, when they went after Amadou Diallo, Abu Luima, or when they go after these brothers from Somalia who are clearly Muslim, the cops are still going at it. They're still alive. They're still running around, ready to shoot your 7-year-olds in the back or in the chest while she sleeps and put their fathers in the blood. You got to ask yourself, what would Malcolm do? What would Khalid Muhammad do? If Khalid was Ayanna Jones's father, what do you think he would do? You like to use his name a lot? You like to bang and beast? You like to pump your chest up and beat your chest like you're some kind of king, general, whatever? But if you're going to use those words in actions. One day, one of these crackers and Negroes and someone else will wake up with a bullet in their head. Nobody knows where. Nobody knows when. Nobody knows how. You got to ask yourself this. Because in his words, he was saying that's the only time this stuff is going to stop. I'm just paraphrasing. But my interpretation, what I understood, is that's the only time that the Joseph Weeklies and the Meserlies and the crackers and these devils that are continually going after you, is that it's going to stop. The only time it's going to stop. If you're going to use his words, not for some kind of, well, I'm a bang of the beast, and I'm a, the Holis and RBG Israelite, and I'm a Kemet and Nation of Islam, and, the Moorish Temple of Sovereignty, and all this other foolishness. If you're going to really do and use words, and I hear a lot of Negroes talking about Noble Drew Ali, and I hear a lot of Negroes talking about our esteemed, wonderful ancestors like Marcus Garvey and Elijah Muhammad, real black men, and Malcolm X and Khalid Muhammad. And we like to talk the words because we like to prove ourselves, beat our chest like we're somebody. But we got to ask ourselves, if we really, really believe in this, are we going to take their words seriously? One day, one of these crackers is going to wake up with a bullet in his head. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows how. Nobody knows when. It just happened. And he said it. That's the only way this stuff was going to stop. But then, you might write for a couple of days, get out Sharpton over there. Michael Baisden can't keep his, hands off of another man, so he's not going to be doing any more Gen 6s. His thing is Gen 6. So, Negroes like that should have been burned a long time ago. Shaq, all these athletes, just Negroes, degenerates, hip hoppers, rappers, bling blings, gangsters, Reverend Chicken Bone, Manning and Manning, Larry Elder, and Jesse Lee Peterson should have been, they should have woke up like John Henrick Clarke said. Somebody, nobody knows when, nobody knows where, but we'll rely on that because we like shiny things. We like to, bling bling, and we like to pump our fist up and beat our chest. And hey, we're nationalists. Yeah, Hotep. Yeah, black man, black. Yeah, black power. We got brothers out there working hard, and they got threats all over. Good brothers out there. We know who they are. that are really doing work, that really want to go ahead and have sanctuary. But they can't have sanctuary because, we got too many Negroes, too many throw up our fists, too many, yeah, banging on beast, yeah, we're the Moorish empire of sovereign and sovereign constitution and UCC codes and all this other bullshit. And then another cop will go ahead and, like, they just shot another brother just recently. I think it was in California. He was handcuffed. Nobody heard about it. You'll hear about it about a year from now. You know, but then, pump the fist, back to square zero, like Pavlov's dog. Kill him. It's almost like they could set their watch by the inaction of a Negro and the inadequacy of the so-called pseudo-nationalists, the so-called Kemet, the so-called banging, the so-called RBGs, Black Powerites. They can almost set their watch by your fear, by your inadequacy, by our inadequacy, by our fear. They can almost set their watch by our malleable disposition as being, as wanting to be free. But then again, are we going to take our incredible, our esteemed and our honored ancestor John Henrick Clarke? Are we going to take his words seriously, or are we just going to use them for another lecture to prove how much we think we know? The peddling of other people's knowledge, so we can say, yeah, man, I learned this from such and such, so I know. Just very simple. Nobody knows when these crackers wakes up with a bullet in his head, or these Negroes, or these others that are killing our children, they wake up with a bullet in their head. Nobody knows when. Nobody knows where. Nobody knows how. They just know it happened. He said that's when things will stop. Nobody knows who. Nobody knows how. Nobody knows when or where. That's when things will stop. Other races are doing that right now. When these crackers go into their country and start killing and raping their people, and they end up like in that that juvie Red Dawn, the first one, not the one they're trying to remake. He says that they woke up with their throats cut. That's what's happening. That's what happened in Vietnam. That's what's happening over there with them sand cracking Arabs over in Iraq. Them camel jockeys over in Iraq. Low-life Arabs that are killing black folk anyways. But they got the dumbass Negroes and crackers waking up with their throats cut. Nobody knows who. Nobody knows where or why. It just happened. So when you guys go banging on beasts, and next time you start quoting John Henrick Clarke, your actions are just about as empty as your heads, unless you really, really ask yourself that question: how real are we going to take his words? Nobody knows who did it. Nobody knows how they did it. Nobody knows when they did it or where they did it. It just happened. He said, that's when things are going to stop. Get it together, black folk.